Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're all well. Today I am talking about freelancers and independent contractors and when is it okay to negotiate terms of a contract. There's a couple of things that I'd like to say first. Firstly, make sure there is a contract. Either a contract has been provided to you as a freelancer or you have your own contract to give to a business as your terms of engagement. So when you are looking at a contract, the main things that come up which will affect how happy you are in the work that you are bidding for is pretty easy to work out. So firstly, your rate. It is perfectly okay to use a contract to negotiate a rate. So when you have had an informal conversation with a business or a service provider about a work that you are going to do for them, and they come back to you with a contract, pay special attention to the section that deals with your rates or the payment for your services. Now, if it is not what has been reflected in your conversation, and mostly it's not deliberate, it's just something may have been lost in translation. So make sure that you look at that part of the agreement of the document to ensure that what you agreed to be paid is actually reflected accurately. Sometimes this could be also that if it's progressive payments to you for your service, or if it's a lump sum payment, when this payment should occur. So when you have a contract in front of you that has been given to you by someone else, the first thing that you need to look at, well, there's the main thing is how you are being paid, and is it in alignment with what it is that you've actually discussed. Once you've done that, the second area that's really important, and it's also a place for negotiation in a document, and that's the scope of work. Now, there is such a thing as scope creep in freelancing world and independent contractor world, where you are engaged to do a certain brief, or the scope of work is defined, but if it's not properly defined in writing in a contract, there is the risk of scope creep, where the client or the business or will slowly but surely ask you to do more and more and more than what you are paid for. So scope creep is quite common in the freelancing world, and the way to manage that is to ensure that you have negotiated well and been very clear in the scope of work section of your contract document. The other area that you need to feel comfortable with negotiating is your delivery times for the work that you are being engaged to do as a contractor or freelancer. When you work for yourself, delivery times are really a big thing, because mostly as a freelancer, you are you're managing multiple clients, and the reality of your capacity needs to be reflected in the document, and it needs to be very clear that what your expected delivery times are. So if you're not able to meet a delivery time, then that's a good time to negotiate, to have a more realistic time put into the contract. Just popping back to the rates for a moment, when you are looking at a contract in front of you, and you are talking about what you are to be paid, or what your rate is for a particular job or a particular brief, it's always important to make a note at that time to negotiate changes to your payment, within 12 months or at review, or in 6 months, or each time a brief changes, because you don't want to be held to a fixed fee for an indefinite period of time, because that won't serve you. Your capacity might change, and normal business practice means that prices change as well. The other area that's very sometimes left off the negotiation table when it comes to contractors is the ability to use work that you've produced as a sample for your own portfolio. You need to discuss this with your principal or the service provider that has engaged you to create work for them. Generally, they own the copyright, but they can, in your contract, you can negotiate a license to use that material or sample of it or reference to it as part of your professional portfolio. It's not a given that you can do that, and it's a really big lost opportunity for you to showcase your own work when you don't negotiate this into your contract with a service provider. So at the bottom of it all, or the main thing to remember is, firstly, have a contract. The second thing is that if you have a contract, try and make it your contract. Have it as your terms of engagement, because then you have had a hand in drafting it. The third thing is, if you accept a contract or are given a contract from another provider, quite often they are using a standard contract, especially the bigger businesses, and it can contain a lot of jargon and difficult terms. So be wary and send it back and ask for a simpler contract, or one that is written more clearly and more simply, so that everyone understands what's going on. The person who produces the contract has the power. Okay, so that's why I'm a big fan of people who are of contractors and independent contractors and freelancers having their own terms of engagement to offer to a client. So the best thing to do is to have them up your sleeve, have them ready, and when interest is expressed in your work and you're asked to provide a quote, attach your terms of engagement with the quote. Don't leave it up to them to give them yours, because it's very it's written for them, it's not written for you, and it's harder to negotiate when on someone else's contract, but easier to make concessions and variations on your own. So with that piece of advice, I will leave you and check in with you next week and discuss further aspects of running your business and having your legals in place. Have a beautiful week, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.